vast and often unforgiving world of archaeology, there are few names that command respect and admiration, quite like Dr. Amelia Harding. A pioneering figure, she was not merely an archaeologist. She was a seeker of hidden truths, a relentless explorer with an unquenchable thirst to unearth the secrets buried beneath layers of soil and time. Amelia's story began long before she set foot on her first dig site. Born into a family deeply rooted in history, her parents both respected historians. She grew up surrounded by dusty tomes, maps, and relics of the past. As a child, she would spend hours in her father's study, captivated by stories of ancient empires, forgotten cities, and the mysteries that time had swallowed. Her fascination was not the idle curiosity of a child, but a calling that took hold early. It was in those quiet moments, poring over ancient manuscripts and weather journals, that she first imagined herself walking the same paths as the civilizations she admired. She dreamed not just of reading history, but of touching it, of bringing it back to life. As she grew, that dream became a mission. Amelia pursued her studies with a fierce determination, earning scholarships, traveling to distant lands, and immersing herself in the languages and cultures of the people whose stories were often left untold. She was never content with the surface. Over the course of her 20-year career, Dr. Harding became known for her tireless dedication and groundbreaking discoveries. From the sun-drenched deserts of the Middle East to the dense jungles of South America, she led expeditions that challenged accepted timelines and reshaped historical narratives. Colleagues admired her not just for her intellect, but for her humility and compassion. Despite the accolades and international recognition, Amelia remained grounded, a scientist driven by the pursuit of truth rather than fame. Those closest to her recall her meticulous nature. Every artifact was cataloged with care, every site surveyed with precision. She believed that every shard of pottery, every faded inscription, was a piece of a much larger puzzle. But beyond her work ethic, what truly defined Amelia was her empathy. She approached each culture she studied with profound respect, understanding that these were not just remnants of the past, but living legacies of peoples who had come before. Her most ambitious project was yet to come. Far from the bustle of modern cities, deep in a remote region where the map was little more than a suggestion, lay a site spoken of in hushed, academic tones, a place rumored to hold the remnants of a lost civilization so ancient and advanced that its discovery could rewrite history itself. With a team of trusted experts, Amelia prepared to embark on what would be the defining expedition of her life. The journey ahead was daunting, marked by uncertainty, danger, and the promise of revelation. As the plane touched down on a rough airstrip near the outskirts of the region, Amelia felt the familiar surge of anticipation, the electric thrill that comes from standing at the threshold of discovery. She was ready to unlock secrets long hidden beneath the earth, to bring forgotten stories back into the light. But what awaited them at the site was more than she had ever imagined, and it would change everything, not just the history books, but the course of her own life. The site Dr. Amelia Harding chose was unlike any other. It lay nestled deep within an isolated, rugged landscape, far beyond the reach of modern civilization. No roads led here, no convenient pathways through the wilderness. The terrain was unforgiving, marked by jagged cliffs, treacherous ravines, and thick, oppressive forests where sunlight barely pierced through the canopy. It was the kind of place that seemed to dare anyone to venture too far. As Amelia and her team made their way toward the site, the journey itself became an ordeal. The once pristine air grew thick with dust and the scent of damp earth. Their vehicles struggled over the rough terrain, wheels sinking into the soft ground, the dust clouds rising behind them like ghostly reminders of how little they were in control of their surroundings. But despite the challenges, the sense of discovery was palpable. There was a magnetic pull to this place, an allure that tugged at their hearts and minds, pushing them onward through the hardships. With every mile, the promise of the unknown grew larger. For days, they traveled, battling the elements, enduring the sweltering heat, and braving the dangers posed by the terrain. At night, the temperature dropped sharply, and the sounds of unseen creatures echoed through the darkness, reminding them of how truly alone they were in this desolate expanse. The further they journeyed, the more the world around them seemed to close in. The vast, open sky narrowed as they entered the dense forest surrounding the site, and the sound of their footsteps seemed unnaturally loud in the quiet. At last they arrived. Hidden deep in the heart of this forsaken place were the ruins, half-sunken stone structures, remnants of a once great civilization now overrun by nature. Vines crawled up broken columns, and the ruins themselves were eerily silent, as if they, too, were waiting for something, or someone, to awaken them. The air seemed charged with a strange energy, as though the very ground beneath their feet held stories, ancient, untold, and waiting for the right hands to uncover them. Amelia felt it immediately, a pull deep inside her chest that was both exhilarating and unsettling. The team moved cautiously, careful not to disturb the site too abruptly. Every stone, every carving, every fragment of pottery was carefully documented. The intricately designed symbols etched into the stone walls seemed to pulse with a quiet mystery, as if they held the key to unlocking some profound truth. Amelia was fascinated, of course. No one could have been more eager to uncover the civilization's secrets. Yet, there was something else, something almost unspoken, that lingered in the air. The locals, who had accompanied them to the edge of the site, were uneasy. They spoke little, their eyes darting nervously toward the towering ruins. At first, they had been eager to help, but as the team ventured closer to the heart of the site, their enthusiasm waned, replaced by an air of apprehension. "There are things here, things that shouldn't be disturbed," one of the guides had whispered to Amelia just before they entered the clearing. The cryptic warning seemed to be dismissed as superstition. The team was focused, driven by the promise of discovery. Yet as Amelia looked back at the retreating figures of the locals, a strange feeling settled deep in her gut, an unsettling sense that maybe there was more to their warnings than she wanted to admit. But there was no turning back now. The site was far too significant. If what they had read about the place was true, if the theories about the lost civilization were correct, this could be a find that would change everything, one that could revolutionize the study of ancient cultures. As the excavation began, excitement rippled through the group. With every layer of earth they unearthed, more relics appeared, stone tablets, broken weapons, intricate jewelry, all bearing symbols that seemed to belong to no known civilization. The discoveries raised more questions than answers, but it was clear they were on the verge of something monumental. But, despite the growing excitement, there was an undercurrent of tension, an unease that began to grow with every passing day. It wasn't just the remote location or the dangers of the terrain. There was something about the site itself, something almost sentient in the way the ruins seemed to watch them. It wasn't long before the whispers of ancient curses and guardians of the past began to resurface. The locals, who had earlier been too eager to help, now refused to come closer to the site. They spoke in hushed tones, exchanging knowing glances, muttering prayers to spirits long forgotten. Some of the team members laughed off these superstitions, believing that such things were nothing more than the mythic stories of a forgotten time. But there was a distinct change in the air. Amelia could feel it, and so could her team. Even as they uncovered more artifacts, the excitement began to mix with a creeping sense of dread. "It's as if the land itself is holding its breath," one of her colleagues said, glancing nervously around at the ruins. The words seemed to hang in the air, unspoken fears taking shape. Amelia tried to push these thoughts aside, focusing instead on the importance of the discovery. Yet, there was an undeniable presence here, an intangible feeling that seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. The site was ancient. The risks were real. But for Amelia, there was no turning back. The secrets of the past beckoned, and she would uncover them, no matter what lay hidden beneath the earth or within the shadows. Then, without warning, the expedition took a dark and unexpected turn. The excitement of the first few days, of discovery, of uncovering the past, turned to dread as something unfathomable happened. A single, unsettling event that would forever alter the course of the expedition. It was during the early days of the second week on site that Dr. Amelia Harding vanished. One moment she was there, standing in the shadow of an ancient, crumbling archway, gesturing excitedly toward a newly uncovered stone tablet with intricate carvings. The next, She was simply gone. At first, the team thought it was a joke, a harmless prank. After all, Amelia was known for her playful nature and her uncanny ability to vanish into the wilderness for brief moments, always returning with new discoveries. But this time, something was different. The hours passed. The team searched, first calmly, then desperately. They scoured the ruins, combed the surrounding jungle, their shouts echoing against the stillness of the site. Yet, there was no sign of her, no trace of the woman who had led them here, who had inspired them with her passion and vision. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the earth, a sense of unease began to settle over the group. It wasn't just the absence of Dr. Harding that unsettled them. It was the silence that followed. The site, which had once seemed alive with the hum of discovery, now felt cold and abandoned. Even the birds and insects seemed to have vanished. The team pressed on, determined to find her. But it was futile. No footprints. No disturbed earth. Nothing. The night was filled with confusion, frustration, and an overwhelming sense of fear. Dr. Harding had always been cautious, methodical, never straying far from the group. Her disappearance made no sense. The land, once welcoming in its mystery, now seemed hostile, keeping its secrets hidden from the very people who sought to uncover them. Then, they found the first clue. In her tent, scattered across the ground, were the remnants of what appeared to be hastily scribbled notes. Amelia's handwriting, usually so precise, was jagged, frantic. The pages were torn, as if she had been interrupted in the middle of writing something important. The note spoke of symbols. Symbols that were not like the ones they had been deciphering. Symbols that seemed to change when examined too closely. Amelia had written about something she had seen, something that had drawn her deeper into the ruins, something she believed to be the key to everything. Along with the notes was a journal entry, unfinished. The last words were a warning. If I don't return, don't trust the rest of the sentence was smudged, as if someone had grabbed the paper away before she could finish. The ink was smeared, but the fear was unmistakable. The team was shaken. Amelia had never shown any fear. She had always been the leader, calm and composed in the face of danger. But now, as they pieced together the fragmented clues, they realized that something had spooked her, something far beyond what they had anticipated. As the investigation began, more unsettling discoveries were made. Strange symbols had been etched into the dirt near the ruins, almost as if they had been deliberately placed there. These weren't the same markings the team had been studying. No, these were newer, more deliberate, more ominous. And the deeper they looked, the more the clues seemed to point towards something much darker. Whispers began to circulate. Had Amelia uncovered something that she shouldn't have? Some ancient secret too powerful to be disturbed? Local legends began to surface again. Legends of guardians who protected the site, who silenced those who ventured too far into the past. Many dismissed these stories as superstition, but the evidence began to pile up in ways they couldn't ignore. Some team members began to fear the worst, that Dr. Harding had fallen victim to something much more than an accident. Had she been taken? Was there someone, or something, who didn't want her to uncover the truth? Theories began to grow wilder. Some suggested foul play. Others believed Amelia's disappearance was connected to the ancient civilization they were studying. Maybe, they thought, there were powers at play far beyond their understanding. The most chilling possibility, however, was one that began to haunt the team more and more as the days passed. What if the site itself was alive? What if the land, the ruins, the ancient symbols, everything that had drawn them here, was more than just a relic of the past? And as the days turned to weeks, the growing sense of dread among the team reached a boiling point. Every new discovery, every strange occurrence, seemed to lead them further into an abyss of uncertainty. They were no longer just searching for Dr. Harding. They were searching for the truth of the place itself. The site had become a prison, one that seemed to hold them captive. And the deeper they dug, the more they realized that the answers they sought might be the very things that destroyed them. As the days stretched into weeks with no sign of Dr. Harding, the team found themselves spiraling into a state of uncertainty, the weight of their mission now thick with suspicion and fear. What happened to Amelia? The more they searched, the more the questions multiplied. but the answers remained stubbornly elusive. The team tried to continue their work, but it was impossible to ignore the void left by their leader. The excavation site, once a place of excitement and discovery, now felt like a tomb. Every artifact they uncovered seemed to raise new questions about the ancient civilization they had been sent to study, questions that pointed toward something much darker and more dangerous. And then, the first breakthrough came, not in the form of a new discovery, but through the cryptic notes Dr. Harding had left behind. After carefully analyzing them, the team realized that these were not random scribbles or half-formed thoughts. They were pieces of a larger puzzle, deliberately placed and meticulously crafted by someone who had been on the edge of uncovering a vast and ancient truth. Amelia had left them a trail, a map of sorts, embedded within the symbol she had been studying. But the more they tried to decode it, the more complex and unsettling it became. It wasn't just a map. It was a warning, or perhaps a call to action. The symbols weren't just part of an ancient language. They seemed to shift and change, as if they were alive, adapting to the one who tried to understand them. The team called in experts, cryptologists, linguists, and archaeologists, hoping for insight. But every attempt to make sense of the symbols failed. Some suggested they might represent an ancient form of encryption, one so complex that even modern scholars couldn't crack it. Others believed that the symbols were not meant to be understood by logic alone. Perhaps they were meant to be experienced, to be felt, reaching out to those who were attuned to the mysteries of the past. In the meantime, the team began to notice something else. Strange occurrences that seemed to mirror Amelia's own experiences. Equipment malfunctioned without explanation. The radio, which had once worked fine, now picked up only static. Compass readings became erratic, sending them in circles when they tried to navigate the site. At night, the sounds of the jungle grew louder, unnerving sounds that seemed to echo across the site from unseen places. Sometimes, they could hear whispers, faint but clear. They tried to dismiss it as the wind or their imagination, but the feeling that they were being watched was inescapable. And then came the most unsettling discovery of all. A hidden chamber beneath the ruins, sealed off for centuries. The entrance was concealed, almost deliberately so, as if it had been buried to remain forgotten. When the team finally uncovered it, they found it filled with artifacts unlike any they had seen before, objects that seemed to pulse with a strange energy, as though they were alive. There, in the center of the chamber, lay a stone slab, inscribed with a series of symbols that matched the ones Dr. Harding had been researching. But these weren't just carvings. They were glowing faintly, as if imbued with an otherworldly power. The air around the slab felt heavy, charged with something ancient, something alive. It was here, in the heart of the site, that the team began to realize that Dr. Harding had not just uncovered a lost civilization. She had stumbled upon something much greater, something far more dangerous. What had been hidden beneath the earth for centuries was not just knowledge. It was a force that had been carefully guarded by those who once walked this land, a force that still lingered, waiting to be unleashed. The cryptic symbols, the strange artifacts, the unexplained malfunctions, it was all connected. But to what end? The more they uncovered, the more it seemed like the land itself was resisting their presence, like something was fighting against them, trying to keep its secrets buried. As they pieced together the fragmented clues, one theory began to take hold. Amelia had uncovered something so profound, so dangerous, that someone, or something, had decided to silence her. Had she discovered the location of an ancient artifact, perhaps a key to unimaginable power? Was that why she had been taken? But as the team pondered this, they realized that this was no longer just about Amelia. The mystery of her disappearance had evolved into something far bigger, something that threatened to consume them all. They were no longer just archaeologists uncovering the past. They were now part of a much larger, far more dangerous game, one that had been set in motion long before they arrived. And with every new discovery, the line between fact and myth began to blur. Could the legends of guardians protecting the site actually be true? Was the force they were dealing with something supernatural? Or was it simply the result of centuries of isolation and superstition? The more they dug, the more they realized that they weren't just uncovering history. they were awakening it. And with every step they took toward the truth, the more perilous the journey became. They had to decide, would they continue to push forward, risking everything for the secrets buried in the earth? Or would they walk away, leaving the past to remain forgotten, as it had been for centuries? As the weeks stretched on, the search for Dr. Amelia Harding turned from a focused, desperate rescue operation into something much darker. With every passing day, the team uncovered more about the ancient site, more about the civilization that had once thrived there, and more about the terrifying secrets they had tried so desperately to bury. Dr. Harding's disappearance hung over the site like a dark cloud, casting shadows over every discovery, every artifact unearthed. Amelia had always said that archaeology wasn't just about uncovering the past. It was about understanding it, learning from it. But the deeper they dug into the earth, the more they realized that some things were meant to stay hidden. Despite the growing dangers, Amelia's team pressed on. Her legacy had become the driving force behind their work, the reason they continued to search the ruins long after her absence. The artifacts they uncovered were more than just objects. They were pieces of a puzzle, fragments of a forgotten story that demanded to be told. Yet, the more they uncovered, the more the site seemed to push back. Equipment malfunctioned again. The air grew thick and oppressive. The strange whispers in the jungle grew louder at night, as though the land itself was alive, watching, waiting. And then, one final discovery would alter everything. The team had been excavating near the edge of the site when they unearthed a sealed chamber, one that had been hidden from sight, perhaps intentionally so. Inside, they found not just more artifacts, but a series of inscriptions, a message left behind by the people who had once inhabited the land. The language was foreign, but the meaning was clear. The civilization had known something they had left behind, something that was never meant to be found. As they studied the inscriptions, a terrible truth began to emerge. The civilization that had once lived here had been destroyed, not by natural forces, but by their own actions. They had uncovered something ancient, something powerful, something that had driven them to madness. They had tried to bury it, to lock it away, but now, with Dr. Harding's team digging into the site, it seemed that the force they had hidden had been awakened once more. For the first time, the team began to consider the possibility that their discovery was not just historical, it was personal. What if Amelia had stumbled upon something that threatened more than just her career? What if she had uncovered a force so dangerous that it had silenced her, perhaps even claiming her life to ensure its secrets remained buried? The weight of this realization hung heavy in the air. There was a finality to it. A decision had to be made. Would they continue to push forward? Would they continue to uncover the past, risking their lives and their sanity in the process? Or would they walk away, leaving the secrets of the lost civilization forever buried in the dust? Dr. Harding had always pushed forward. She had always believed that the truth, no matter how dangerous, was worth uncovering. But as her team stood in the heart of the ancient ruins, staring at the inscriptions, staring at the legacy of a civilization destroyed by...
If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and won't cost anything, but it means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video.
Its own obsession with power. They weren't sure if the truth was worth the cost. Her disappearance had been a tragedy, but the legacy of her work, her dedication, her pursuit of knowledge, her belief that history had the power to change the future, was far from over. Though Dr. Harding remained missing, her legacy lived on. The answers to the mystery of her disappearance might never come, but the impact of her work would continue to ripple through the world of archaeology and beyond. It was clear now. The mission was no longer just about solving the riddle of the lost civilization. It was about understanding the consequences of unearthing the past, about respecting the forces that lay dormant beneath the earth. The team had no answers, no closure, but they knew that the journey was far from over. The truth, whatever it was, still lay beneath their feet, hidden in the ruins, in the ancient symbols, in the whispering wind that seemed to carry with it the ghosts of the past. And so, the world watched. The search for Dr. Harding's legacy, for the secrets of the past, would continue. The story of the lost civilization was not just one of discovery. It was a warning, a reminder that sometimes history holds more than we are ready to face. And as the team left the ruins behind, the echoes of Amelia's work still rang in the air. What had begun as a search for knowledge had now become a race against time, a race to protect the future from the dark truths of the past. Dr. Amelia Harding had believed that some stories were worth uncovering. But now, her team knew that some stories were best left buried. The journey would continue, but the shadows of the past would always remain.